Is a will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
All right, great to be back in a game week. I know we all enjoy the bye week and a little bit of opportunity to catch our breath and all that. But obviously, we're here to play football games, and to be back in game week mode is great. On the bye week note, I think we utilized it well. Had a chance to continue to work fundamentals at this point in the time of the season with younger players in particular. Had a chance to sit some guys down that have accumulated quite a few reps as we've gone through the season. Guys that missed that last game, probably in particular Bryce Grebe and Adam Jones, continue to recover. Look like they'll be able to be part of our team, our travel roster this week. So excited about the challenge in front of us. Eastern Washington on the surface, you look at it, they're 2-6. But you look at the 4 conference games in which they won. All the opponents were ranked when they saw them. I trust that Sac State's not going to be a team in that rankings obviously anymore. But the other 3 are. They've been close games, and in games they've scored points in every which way. And they're averaging 33 points right now, which is significant. Well over 400 yards of offense, and pretty balanced, in that regard, because they're rushing for just under 200 at this point in time. I think they've made a real concerted effort in the conference season in particular to get the running game going, and they've been pretty consistent. They're a unique team. The fact that they play 3 quarterbacks essentially, but one is truly a quarterback, Vesperis, and he's had a good season at this point, completing well over 70% of his passes. I think 13-1 touchdown interception. And then on the other end, a lot of those passes is Afton Chisholm, who is clearing away their leading receiver. I think he's got 76 catches. The next leading receiver at the very least is 14. So they're continuing to try to find ways to get him the ball, and he finds ways to get open. And then once he gets the ball in his hands, he's a dynamic runner after the catch. You mentioned the 3 quarterbacks. The other 2 guys, I think it's 15 and 6. 15, Taylor has been very effective more and more as the season has gone along as a runner. He threw the ball a few times Saturday night for a touchdown, then followed it up with a 2-point conversion. And I think it's number 6 is all kinds of things. He listed him as a quarterback, but he essentially plays running back. He returned a kick for a touchdown the other night. So a lot of weapons on the offensive side. Defensively, I think the thing that jumps out at you is they've done a lot of things, and they're giving up points and yards. And I think how they defended Idaho the other night at times was probably as consistent and stout as they've been. They have been all over the map as far as what they've done in the front, 4 down, 3 down, flex defense. So, predicting what they're going to do come Saturday is a challenge, because they have done so many different things in their front 7 in particular. So that's a little bit about what we see in them. I know it's helpful that we're certainly a couple days into our prep against them, and we have obviously the rest of the week to get going before we head over to Cheney. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Julius Davis was as on the depth chart for the first time this season. Just what you've been seeing from him, and he traveled obviously to Portland State.
Yeah. Julius has really been practicing now for the better part of this month, trying to build up each and every week. I think there was availability that could have been there out of Portland, but we chose to to sit him one more game, and now we're in a 4-game mode, and all signs point to his ability to utilize a red shirt this year, going back in time and getting a medical his first year in Wisconsin, when he did come in as a true freshman injured. So all systems go, I guess, and how he has looked, I think is every bit of what he looked like in practice last year. And Julius is a gamer, though. He was much better in games than he was at any point in time in practice last year. So it's our hope the game side of it is what it was, because he was dynamic, he was explosive, he was all things for us when he was healthy last year, and it's great to have him back in this position to play.
Just any other updates on the injury front? Ty went down last game.
Yeah, I think Ty will be okay. I think if we played last Saturday, he wouldn't have played, but I think he's turned a corner over the weekend. He was out there fully padded today. So yeah, otherwise, he was the one, I guess, new thing out of that game. And I already mentioned Bryce and Adam being able to go. So I think we feel good about where our health is. I think everybody 8 games in has sustained some things, and we have. But I guess how you move forward is a testament to your depth, and the next guy up, and our ability, in this mid-season to late season mode to bring back Drew and now bring back Julius, I think is unusual. I think Justice is still a little ways off. I know he's practicing more this week, and for an offensive lineman, for a running back, for a safety, there's a little bit different lead up. And this will be a much different week than it was for Justice last week. We are going to take him on the trip, I think, just to get him traveling again and get him intermixed with the group a little bit differently will be important. But I don't think he'll be a go this week, but we're getting there with him.
Is he planning to redshirt, or is that the plan?
He redshirted in 19.
He did, so he wouldn't be available for medical.
To medical, you can't play, essentially. It's such a fiction. So that's where that stands. So it's our hope that he gets to a point where he's healthy enough to play. And that is the piece that's left for him. I think he's made really good progress. And it's our hope that obviously beyond these 4 games that we have left in regular season, there's more football after that. So that's the status of his situation.
I was wondering if you could kind of speak to the home field advantage they have in Cheney, and kind of they played well there this season and also in previous season.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would point to the red turf, I suppose, being in a different setting, but it's been a situation where they've had a really good program for the most part since the red turf's been in play. And I know this team is a team that hasn't won the games that they maybe would have liked, but the competitive nature has been there, and then some. And they've been competitive on the road, in conference in particular too. So I think it's more, hey, they're a program that has high expectations. They do have this unique field. We've had a chance to play there a couple times, so a good chunk of our guys have been over there. So it's going to be new to some, but for the most part, our guys have played there. But it's more about the players and the program than it is the field.
Adam being named to the Jerry Rice watch list, and Brody as well being at camp plans. Just any thoughts on those?
Yeah, Adam, at this point, I know he didn't play in the last game, but I think been very impressive for a freshman. I know to get on that watch list, you have to make your mark, and I think Adam's certainly done that. He'll have to continue to do that, to continue to garner that interest necessary to maybe bring that home. But he's going to have opportunities. I know that Scott Trey, now Julius are going to get some too. So how many and then what that looks like, we'll have to see. But Adam's been a really important player for us this season. And Brody's honor, and that's significant. That's you're one of 16 finalists amongst all of college football. And it's not just one thing, it's all things. It's being an All-American player on the football field. It's being as high achieving academic student as he's been. And he's a grad, he's a 3.93 grad in mechanical engineering. I think that speaks for itself. And then it's, who you are as a person, your willingness to give back. And I'm certain getting that number of 200 plus down to 16 isn't real simple. And I know it's easy for us to look and say, hey, absolutely Brody deserved it, but to be chosen to go down to that banquet in December down in Las Vegas is quite an honor. I know having a chance to go down there when Troy was in a similar situation. It is a who's who in college football. They also honor the College Hall of Fame there, so I was able to go last year when Bill Kohler got inducted. So to have our program now represented 3 of the last 4 years is something, and that's a credit to Brody, and I think to some degree it's certainly a credit to our program, our university, Bozeman, all things.
Is there just anything schematically that Eastern does that on offense that kind of makes them especially tough to defend?
Well, I think they really force you to defend both the width and the depth of the field. They do a good job of utilizing the screen game, and that's always challenging just when you're talking the width of the field. And it's, you'd suspect that primarily is going through Chisholm, but not necessarily always. I think how they're utilizing the different guys that are quarterbacks, anytime you have potentially 3 different guys that have thrown the football, can throw the football, I think that's challenging. They do have a vertical passing game as well, and one thing that they're willing to roll one way and throw back the other way more often than most. I think most people use that kind of as a here and there change of pace, but every game it's showing up where they're double moving back to the other side of the field and challenging throws for a quarterback. But Chisholm in particular is such a good route runner. He finds himself open. The amount of times he's been open downfield for a guy that is obviously their primary guy, I think it speaks to his ability. And then, I think their ability schematically to keep coming up with creative ways to get him in one-on-one matchups in space, and then, the quarterback's ability to deliver the football.
You guys have just remained so consistent this season through the first 8 games now post bye week. Anything in particular to stick to that mindset, going into these final 4 and not look too far ahead?
Well, I think it's the same thing. We went primarily MSU against MSU on Tuesday and Wednesday, but really once we flipped on Wednesday, we're into Eastern Washington. This isn't a deal where we're utilizing this bye week to look at a couple opponents, anything like that. I think we recognize fully, how dangerous of an opponent this is. I think we all remember the last time we went over there. It was a game we didn't really have business winning, I think, at the end of the game, but we found a way. And I think at the same time, our guys now 8 games in, I think understand why we've been consistent. It's not because we say we're consistent, it's because we do the things that allow you to be consistent. And that's going back each week relative to that opponent and putting in the necessary steps, really being concerned with our continued improvement. And that's where last week was so big, because our continued improvement is about fundamentals. It's for some guys, it's about catching their breath and getting recharged. Because ultimately this game is going to be played in November, and we need to be a better team in November than we were in August and September and October. And that's a tall task. It is a tall task. That's what's in front of us, and I think our guys do understand that.
Yeah, I believe Danny was a big part of that last time you guys were down in Eastern. Just how has he been as a coach now at Portland State? And still, we heard that he runs meetings, things like that. They were telling us that he's just really transitioned into that role. How has he been?
Yeah, real good. And expected that. He's very, very outgoing, very vocal. So there's that piece, but he's a very intelligent player too. So to be able to share the information, through the course of the week, be able to sit down with his fellow linebackers and continue to give his point of view. Really, that was something he continued to do. He was really doing that before he got injured. And, the challenge will be out of surgery now this week. He's got to be able to continue to bring that same energy. And while he won't be able to go on this trip because he has surgery this week, that's my expectation that, he gets healthy enough where he can continue that role. Because his role as a leader, a teacher, a captain will still be very important to this team.
Every week, we highlight athletes from Montana State University on our Montana State Minute, which airs on both Nuanez Now as well as the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series. That's probably presented by the Bobcat Collective. Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective of Montana State University. And right now, if you would like a free membership for a month to the Bobcat Collective, you can visit bobcatcollective.com/skyline and get access to all sorts of different things, whether it's pairing your business with Montana State student athletes, finding out about social events, getting access to all sorts of content, including roundtable discussions with various standout Bobcats, and much, much more. Get a free membership right now to the Bobcat Collective, bobcatcollective.com/skyline. Bobcat Collective, serving Montana State University student athletes and helping connect the Bobcats to the Treasure State community.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Coulter, do you have anything?
Yes. Hey, Coach, thanks for being here. First of all, Eastern seems like they run the ball in a lot of different ways, quarterback included, but also other ways too. So how do you sort of go about handling the complexity?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge because it's not as simple as they throw the other guys in and now they're going to run the quarterback. They've been willing to run Vesperis, I think, more and more to me as the season has gone along. So you have that +1 element, probably always there to be in the back of your mind. And you know, their primary running back, he's over 500 yards right now. So it's not that it has to be the quarterback. They're just unique in the fact that a pretty good chunk, 700+ yards of rushing, comes from 3 different guys that are listed as quarterbacks. Like Ortham is really in that position as a quarterback, but you know, they schematically, inside outside zone, split zone in both cases, power, pin and pull. I mean, they run the gamut as far as the schemes go. So yeah, you know, I think you really have to be on your toes. And I think for us, you know, you certainly look at defenses and fronts structurally that are similar to say, okay, you know, what do you anticipate? But at the same time, we got to be ready for it all. And you know, I think they got a very experienced, aged offensive line. It's seniors, it's graduates, you know, across the board. So, you know, it certainly would, to me, start with them. I know Coach Best is an O-line coach by trade, so I think he understands to be a good offense, you got to be good up front, and it appears that they've taken some really good strides there too. So, you know, we're gonna have to be on our toes. And the biggest piece, like I said, going back, it's just that the quarterback is always a threat. It doesn't matter which one's out there.
I was going to ask about the offensive line, but you already answered that. When it comes to your defensive secondary, you guys are playing well back there. What do you think of their sort of attitude going into this game to embrace the challenge of Chisholm and everybody else that Eastern likes to use in the pass game?
Well, yeah, I think that's because we need them on both sides. We need them to support the run. We need them to have really good eyes because there's a fair amount of play action involved in their down the field passing game, and then there's such an excellent receiver in that group. So, you know, our guys have been disciplined. They've been up to the challenge, and this is the next one in front of us. And you know, if we can limit the big playability of their passing game, I think that'll be the mark. You know, anytime they're completing 74, or he's completing 74% of his passes, they're going to get some completions. There's going to be balls that are thrown in front of our guys, and then we need to tackle really well. So I know we've had our moments this year, in particular early, where we cut some guys loose. We didn't communicate. We weren't on the same page. I think that ultimately is going to be the biggest piece. So having, you know, a few extra days to practice against all that they've done, it will be critical. And then that's got to show up on Saturday.
I know I talked to you about Simeon last week, but the other senior corner, John Johnson, seems like he's playing pretty well too. How would you just evaluate where he's at, and what have you thought of his ability to sort of acclimate to the program and life in Bozeman these last 2 years?
Yeah, John was a late ad year before from El Camino Community College, and really, fit in instantly as far as that transition last summer, and then that allowed him to, I think, to have a really impactful junior year with us, and he carried that over as far as his fitting in and his willingness to take his game to another level. He had the hand injury that set him back for a few weeks. And then on top of that, I think he played with a cast 1 week. There was still a little bit of rust. So I thought last week was the first time, okay, we took another step forward with John. So he started really well, had the hiccup in the middle with the injury. And now I think he's back on track. And we really need him to play well because Simeon's really had his best stretch of football. And then Andrew Powdrill, much younger than those two, but has played really well. So, the strength of those three and their willingness to, go out there and compete, and then obviously compete with one another for those opportunities has been critical, I think, to all their development. I know that bringing John in here last year really pushed the whole situation at corner. And, you do that for depth, but you do it to hopefully competition brings out the best in all the guys. And what you see in that group of three, it is a group of individuals that keep raising the bar so that if you're not up to that bar, you don't need to be on that field, essentially. You only need to play two corners. So I think they all are worthy of playing, but the competition in each one of them striving to become their best has been a big piece, and Coach Shepard's done a great job with them.
In an effort to not stereotype too much, John's the one that actually told me this. He said, "Hey, I've always had a junior college mentality. Like I was trying to get out of the junior college and get my opportunity. And I've always just kind of treated it like, hey, I got to do whatever I can to get on the field and earn my next chance." So how much can that influence, like you're talking about, just the internal workings of a room?
Yeah, and he's a unique one. He comes from Bosco, which is a program of all programs. But he was an heralded guy, and then he had the chip going on his shoulder going to El Camino, and recruiting wise, we were able to sign him, I think, at the tail end of the sign period, so that's the end of March. But he went in some ways unnoticed from December into January, that recruiting cycle, so that the chip maybe continued to grow. And he hasn't lost that here, even though he played well last year. I think it's he's continued to be driven. So you want guys like that, guys that are doing everything they can to maximize their opportunity and become their very best. And we fortunately have quite a few guys like that, and John is certainly one of them. Unconventional route maybe to get here compared to some of them, but we're real thankful we have.
And you mentioned Chisholm, just all the challenges he presents. It seems like they move him around all over the place to try to get one-on-ones. Do you follow him? Do you shade him, or how do you go about sort of starting with a guy like that?
Well, I think our best interest is to mix it up, but to know where he's at. I think if they suspect they have any real pattern of what you're doing, I think they can exploit you even more. So I know for us, our strength in our coverage has been a variety. And with that variety, there's disguise that's involved that I think we've really grown our disguise this year. That probably affects a quarterback certainly more than it does a receiver. But all that being said, if we're gonna disguise, we're gonna change up coverage, we got to be really dialed into where he is and what that might mean to the particular scheme they might run, or route pattern they might run. But then know that he's going to catch some balls. And I think the two things are, you can't let him behind you, which teams have consistently. And when he does catch the ball, you better tackle him, because that's not as simple as it sounds. I mean, he's really good after the catch. And we've seen it. We've seen it over the years when we played against him. So he is going to get some, but ultimately that big play piece is what you have to hopefully eliminate.
And last thing for you, Eastern seems, I know they have just the one league win, but they've been in dogfights. I mean, dogfight with Montana, dogfight with Davis. They won a dogfight with Sac State last week. I thought they played well against Idaho too. So what can you just say about the fight that you've seen in that team, and how aware does your team have to be about that going into this matchup?
That's a great point, because you get to this point of the season, and you're a 2-6 team. A lot of teams don't show what they showed on Saturday night, and they were 2-5. I know, going to that game, and it's a rivalry game, all that stuff. But this is really time when teams are either taking off or they're turning it in, and I didn't see that, but I haven't seen that once out of this team. And you know, you could even hear it in Coach Best's post game that I think they were really pleased with how they fought, and you just sense that as a coach, that's challenge number one at this point in the season is continuing to fight, continue to go after it, continue to make plays, and they're doing that. And you know, I'm sure they looked at their conference schedule and they had all these games lined up, and that's daunting unto itself. And you know, here we are, another ranked team, but we're going to their place, and I know full well that they're going to want to defend their home turf. You know, our game last year against them was one-sided. I don't know quite how that happened. I know that was game 7 versus game 5 of the conference season last year. So no, we expect that same fight, and that's credit to, you know, their team holding it together, continuing to you know, really want to play this game for just that sake. You know, I think that's where in this day and age, that does get lost on some teams where, hey, we got this opportunity to go play football, you know, and we got this opportunity to continue to, you know, try to prove people wrong. And it's apparent they still have that going for them, and I expect they will on Saturday.
Last thing, then, going into November, what do you think of just the opportunity you guys have in front of you?
Well, I think it's clear that we have everything in front of us, and that's great to be in that position. I suppose 2/3 of the way through, but that's all, we're 2/3 of the way through. And if for 1 second we get anywhere ahead of ourselves, we're going to be in trouble. And we have to be entirely focused on Eastern Washington, and that's been the mindset that's gotten us here, and we can't stray from that. So we've been able to stack these wins up, and I know that matters. I know ultimately where you're ranked at this point in time matters, but it doesn't guarantee you anything moving forward. It doesn't. You know, we've said every week, going 8-0 doesn't have anything to do with us going 1-0 next week. It really doesn't. So we have to stay true to that mindset, and you know, I think we're in a good place health-wise. That's always a concern when you get to November, I suppose, but we're in a good spot there. I think our minds are right, and we have to stay locked in.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else in the room? All right, thanks, Coach.